This is the Cubot Note 7. When I received this phone a good few months ago, I kind of just dismissed it as a bulky, underpowered smartphone that really couldn't hold its own against something like the Redmi 7. But then it dawned on me, this phone isn't targeted at me, a tech-savvy guy. In fact, it's not targeted at 70% of the world's population. This phone is what you would call a feature phone, and it has three main target audiences: developing countries, drug dealers, and the older generation. So with this new mindset in place, just how good is the Cubot Note 7? Let's find out. Hello everybody, my name is Robert and this is Review Clue. But of course, before we get into this review, if this is the first time that you're seeing my face on your screen, then one, lucky you, and two, go down there, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification icon so you get notified every time I upload. Let's get right into this review. Let's get price out of the way, because it's quite incredible. This thing is just £60 here in the UK. For a phone, that is incredible value. So I just want you to keep that fact in the back of your mind for the rest of this review. In terms of design, I quite like this thing. We've got this faux leather and carbon fibre design on the back, which you could really love or hate. It gives it an elegant look, but it might not be to everybody's taste. The tri-camera, though being well placed, is really let down by this god-awful font choice that they've decided to put with AI cameras. As we look at this phone from the top, we can appreciate just how thin it is. This thing is just 11mm thin, compared to the iPhone 11 Pro at just 8.1mm thick, so it's certainly not thin. We also see the rather strangely placed charging port along the top. This doesn't affect the phone in any way, it's just a very odd design choice. The screen is a 5.5-inch IPS display with a resolution of 442 by 960, so it's not even 1080p. But this is okay. It perfectly suffices for its intended purpose, and more on that later. This phone along the front has the teardrop design, which I personally hate, but the rest of the phone is fairly bezel-less, so that's always a good thing to see. In terms of weight, it's fairly light at just 144 grams, meaning that this can be popped into your pocket and it isn't going to weigh you down. This phone is running an ARM Cortex A57 chip, alongside an MP1 graphics chip. This is backed up by 2GB of RAM and 16GB of internal storage, though that internal storage can always be upgraded through a microSD card. This thing comes with a 3100 mAh battery, but perhaps most incredible of all is this is a removable battery, which is great for the longevity of this device. If down the road battery drain becomes an issue, then you simply can just replace the battery, keeping the phone in general. As we're replacing this battery though, we can also see that this is a dual SIM phone, which works on basically any network. So this is great for travelling or even for just being a second device. This phone is running stock Android 10 Go, with a very light skin that really isn't that noticeable. The Go edition of Android is built to run on lower powered devices, with each app taking up less space and using less data, thanks to their web application design. So let's talk about actually using this thing. Well, being a phone, its purpose is not to play games or stream HD content. Instead, it's made for more simple tasks like phone calls, texts, and some light web and social media browsing, of which it does very well. The earpiece on this phone is crisp and clear and not too loud or tinny at all. And it's the same deal with the microphones. It sounds very good, my voice comes through nice and clearly with very little background noise. Navigating the OS, sending texts, and doing some social media browsing is also really nice and snappy on this phone. And it even outperforms my very first smartphone, the LG Optimus One from back in the day. Though I think that says more about just how far phone technology has come in those years. In terms of media consumption, it is possible to do on this device through things like YouTube and other streaming services. But with that less than HD screen, it's probably not going to be a great experience. The screen's viewing angles are fine enough to be able to view content from basically any angle, but its colour reproduction really does let it down here. And the speakers are a completely different story. These things are loud, tinny and generally just awful to listen to. So I would honestly make use of that 3.5mm jack in the top of the phone if you're going to be using this thing for any kind of media consumption. Surprisingly, gaming is possible here, but not as you would think. Things like PUBG Mobile and Call of Duty Mobile simply won't run here. But games like Candy Crush Saga or Angry Birds can be played, and they play at a fairly good frame rate too. The cameras along the back here, I can tell you the main sensor is a 13 megapixel sensor. I can't find any information about the other two cameras, so I don't even know if they're real. But we'll go with the main sensor being a 13 megapixel camera. Being that high megapixel, we get fairly detailed pictures with some pretty good colour reproduction if you spend some time with the phone. The front-facing camera is an 8 megapixel camera, and this lacks a lot of the detail that the back camera did have. Video is capped at 720p and honestly doesn't look that great, but for a point and shoot camera I guess I would let it be. So there we have it, that was the Cubot Note 7, a pretty incredible feature phone for its price point. If you're not looking for a smartphone with all the bells and whistles, or just looking for a second phone that can do texts, phone calls, and maybe even do some light web browsing for work, this is a great choice. But if you're looking for something a little bit more, then maybe take a look at some of my other smartphone unboxing and reviews up there or in the description down below. I've unboxed and reviewed everything from Xiaomi to Blackview and even Doogee phones. Anyway guys, my name is Robert. This has been Review Clue, and I will catch you in the next one. Adios.